Okay, so here we go. The first card is Gwenpool. This one is a season pass card, of course. So like, it's I would recommend it's always worth getting, but that is specifically if you want to spend money on the game, of course. I always get the season pass cards because the amount of money you spend versus what you get out of it is worthwhile to me. However, just looking at the quality of the card, it's a 4/6 with on reveal. Pick a random card in your hand 3 times. Give 2 power each time. And this is a really tricky one. I feel like this is the most mid card that we're gonna see in this list for this season because it just seems okay. It's sort of fine. Yes, there are good targets. If you hit Brood, if you hit who else like Sebastian, anything that benefits, even certain move targets, or if you hit Deadpool, obviously, as you can see. The only problem with this card is one, it could hit one card 3 times, or it could hit 3 different cards, and so on. But also, you're playing it on turn 4. So what, like if you look at Brood, oh well, let's hit Brood. Well, that means you're not playing Brood on 3, which often isn't great. And then Sebastian Shaw's okay. You could just take it for the power, but my worry is in the game right now, is this something you want to play? Right? Like, is this something that, like, look at all the decks people are playing right now. Do you want to spend 4 energy on this? And I think that's my biggest concern with the card. I could see this card potentially getting some kind of buff in the future. And maybe I'm completely off base. I've not played with the card. I've not really sat and like really had a deep think about the card and where it would fit. But the meta as it stands now, I just don't know. I mean, I will be playing with it when the card's released because we'll test it out. But I don't really see where it fits. Like, could this go in an Arisham deck? Sure, you get to play it turn 3 if you draw it. But again, is this really, because that you're still not picking what gets hit, right? So you could hit a card you weren't really wanting to play or something. So it's a tricky one. I'm gonna get it anyway because it's a season pass card, so it's £10 or $10 or however much price it is. So it's probably worth getting along with everything else. But do I think this card's actually good or good enough in the meta right now? I would have to say no, which means I'm gonna put it in here into the maybe good slash fun, mainly because I do think she opens up some fun potential things of hitting specific cards and then the power gets crazy. It's fun with cards like Wong, right? However, if she was a normal card being released in spotlights, for me, she'd probably end up in not worth. But because she's a season pass card, and generally I believe the season pass card is always worth picking up, then I think like, well, yeah, it's probably worthwhile. Um, the next one is going to be, as we type it in quickly, Cassandra Nova, and then we're going to hit another weird card because I, as far as I understand it, there'll be 2 ways to get this. There'll be the normal way with tokens, and then there will also, you can get this in Deadpool's Diner event if you're good enough to get enough bubs, or if you're rich enough to buy enough bubs. We'll see. So let's just go through the card here. Again, it's another weird one, but it's a 3/1 on reveal. Steal 1 power from each card in your opponent's deck. Um, I think like everyone's popping off about how crazy this card is versus Arisham, and yes, it is. It's a bit of an, for me, it's a bit of an odd card to bring out when Arisham's just come out because she like is so much more powerful against specifically Arisham than anything else in the game, right? Yes, you can of course like shuffle rocks in and do that sort of thing, like the Darkhawk style, which is fine. But she's like so much more powerful. She's so spiky versus Arisham. Feels a bit weird for it to come out relatively soon after the release, a few weeks even. But as a card, I think she's quite strong because if she was just gain 1 power from each card in your opponent's deck, she'd be meh, like whatever. But because she's steel, she not only gains the power, but she actually reduces the power down from cards in your opponent's deck as well. Of course, she is way better on curve or even earlier, if possible, with maybe energy gain or Arisham himself, which is way better the earlier you do it because you'll basically impact more playable cards from your opponent. but it still helps with cards like High Evo Abomination and things like that. My only worry about this card and another card that which we'll get to shortly, because we'll discuss this again, is if this card is ever that much of a menace, a lot of it may get nullified by the fact that Luke Cage exists. So we'll see. If people are going like Cassandra Nova, Absorbing Man, or Cassandra Nova Wong, or some kind of early Odin, stuff like that, to repeat the effect, or even a Grandmaster, then like people just play Luke Cage, so then half of her ability doesn't really work. And it's good that she still gains the power as far as I'm aware, so that would still be good. But Luke Cage kind of just switches off a lot of this power. I do think that she's decent though, because she can fit in to Surfer decks as well. Like I said, if you're already playing a deck that has not only benefit of playing 3-drops, but also Absorbing Man, for example, then she's probably going to be pretty good. So I will put her in. I mean, again, it's weird because she is gettable from Deadpool's effect. So Deadpool's Diner, sorry. Luke Cage. Wait, sorry, I'm reading chat. Luke Cage will not give back the power. Wait, of course it will. Right? Will it not? Yeah, she keeps the power, but Luke Cage will bring your card's power back to their normal point. Is what I was saying. Sorry if that was I was maybe making that more confusing than it needed to be. But regardless, so I think Cassandra Nova is strong. I think she's worth getting as well because she may well fit very well in Surfer archetypes, as well as obviously against Darisham. Maybe if you want to play Darkhawk, put some rocks in and keep it strong there. She's also, as said in the promotional video, good with Ravona, which makes her cheaper and easier to play. So I do think Cassandra Nova is pretty good. So yeah, I will put her in strong for this one. Next up, we have Copycat, which Copycat I think is the hypest card, I would say, for most people of this season. She has the sort of standard good 3-drop stat line, which is she's a 3/5, which is really strong. Well, I say really strong. It's very solid. But her card text reads, when you draw this, so you don't even have to play her, you just have to draw her, steal the text from the bottom card of your opponent's deck. Now, in the video, we saw that basically what happens is you draw her, and then the bottom card of your opponent's deck reveals, and then you gain its ability. And like I said, you don't even have to play her. It just has to be drawn, which is very powerful. Also, we had it confirmed that your opponent will not see this animation, which means your opponent will not know what card's on the bottom of their deck. And also, until you play it, will not have any of that information. So until you play Copycat, which could be turn 6 when it's too late, your opponent will not know what they're actually going to be dealing with, which is very nice. Sorry, just had to sneeze. So yeah, I like Copycat a lot. This feels very powerful. There are also funny things that you can do if these are generated in deck by Arisham, so you get some even extra surprise factor. The only weird thing is that I'm not sure of. I don't know if your opponent will see that something's happened, so if they'll know you've got Copycat in hand, or whether there just won't be anything at all from your opponent's side. Because we know historically there's been weird interactions where you'll see if your opponent plays high evo because there's a visual bug that shows you they're playing high evo. There's things that if you play Zabu, it used to sort of show you that there's Zabu would go off, so to speak, so it's affecting something in hand and stuff like that. So I am gonna wait and see if there's some kind of tell that you've drawn Copycat, because even though Second Dinner said that your opponent won't see the card revealed and stuff like that, I think I will wait and see to see if there's some kind of tell, because normally the game isn't good enough to give one player an animation and not show the other player that something has happened. Whether that's like, oh, draw a card and then there's an animation played for your opponent and there's like a weird pause or delay. Because things like that have happened in the game before. Hopefully it doesn't show anything and your opponent has no idea that you've drawn it or that this effect has happened. However, it's a... we will wait and see, because I'm pretty sure we weren't supposed to see like the high evolutionary glow on our opponent's side of the board. Yet we did. So so we'll see how that goes. Regardless though, I do think Copycat not only is exciting and fun and seems powerful, but she's definitely worth getting. I think she'll not only be strong, but she will be powerful as well. Well, strong and powerful. I meant strong and fun. So yeah, Copycat definitely up there for me. If anything, if we're doing the whole left side first, I'd put Copycat right at the top. Okay, next up is it's Ajax, isn't it? Let me get Ajax up. Wait, why? This is so painful, isn't it? If I search see, I have to see. I don't understand. How can I type Ajax in and it does? It doesn't bring up the card. Maybe I was typing it wrong. Okay. So, Ajax 5/5 ongoing +1 power for each card in play affected with negative power. So, there's ups and downs to this card, and we will go through them. 1, I like the Affliction abilities. I like High Evo. I've liked Hazmat for a long time. I like those kinds of interactions because I feel like it creates weird, like, interesting board tension where, oh, you'll let your opponent play loads of cards because you get to Hazmat it, and then even though Hazmat hits your own cards, you're up, right? Because they've played more cards, which means Hazmat has arguably done more damage. Cyclops is cool and all those cards are nice. There is, however, a problem with this that is kind of balanced out in a weird way. This is ongoing, so it's not an on-reveal, so you can play this down and then you can Hazmat, or then you can do whatever, which is nice. However, the issue for me is a simple card, and he's called Luke. If this is ever good, people just play Luke Cage, and then it's trash, right? And again, the benefit here is this doesn't say opponent's cards, right? So weirdly enough, Ajax is not only a good card in High Evolutionary and Affliction decks, but it's also a good card against High Evolutionary and Affliction decks. And that is when things get really weird, as we have seen in Arisham, where the archetype also runs the counters to its own archetype, which is really odd, right? But again, you can argue whether that's an interesting back and forth or not if both players are running Ajax, both players are in High Ev, blah, blah, blah. However, the biggest drawback for me is Luke Cage. I've harped on about Luke Cage for a long, long time now, in that because it has such a AoE wide, just I will delete your archetype effect, then I think that the second this card gets good or common, Luke or High Ev gets popular, people just play Luke Cage, and there goes A-Bomb benefits. There goes Ajax. It nullifies a chunk of Cassandra's power that we spoke about before. There goes Hazmat straight out the window. So that's my worry, and why I actually just wish Luke wasn't a card, or they put it in a different pre-nerf state, or make it cost more, or do one of many things to Luke, because having a card that just deletes an archetype is very odd to me. So we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I think for me, there's probably, even though I like the style of the card, there's probably too many drawbacks for Ajax to spend resources on, if those resources are limited. Obviously, if you're a Giga Whale, buy them all, who cares? But for me, if I was going to pull back and not get some of these cards, or a few of these cards, Ajax would be on the not get list, purely because there's multiple ways that Ajax goes wrong. He's weak to anti-ongoing, like Enchantress and Rogue, that a lot of people are playing now, but he's also just simply weak to Luke Cage being a card that exists. So it's a bit of a shame, but I don't really know what they can do about it. Finally, we have Hydra Bob. Um, this is such a weird card. It is. I feel like it's a giant meme. So I will just say first and foremost, there is a world where people play this as a 1/4, and it's just because hey, it's got one more power than a lot of 1-drops. Sometimes 2 more power than a lot of 1-drops. Like it's just a 1/4, similar to the way people play oh no, what's her name? Let me check. I can't remember her name. Where is it? Let me just check, guys. My mind's gone blank. Marta, yeah. Same way people could people play Marta in like mainly zoo decks and decks they're gonna fill the board with anyway, so their negative effects don't matter, and they just take it as hey, it's a high powered 1-drop. That's fine, but the problem with Marta versus Bob is with Marta, you can predict where Marta will go, and you can also make Marta not move, even if you don't fill the board sometimes, because you can just play in a way where if you put Marta over here, you know that if she moves anywhere else, it just improves your board, right? So she won't move, or you'll know she'll move and play in that style. So Marta has some predictability. The problem with Bob is he's one less power than Marta, and then it revolves around snapping, which is odd. Now, it's a weird one. Okay, we'll split this into two discussions. One, in a normal game of Snap, having a card, because generally if you're going to play this, you probably want it to move, right? So it revolves around you snapping aggressively or your opponent snapping. But if you snap first and it moves into a good spot, your opponent can snap back and then have weird interactions, which is odd. The only thing I'll say is that sounds bad. However, if you were going to play in Deadpool's Diner, where I believe you can snap more, then you can really move Hydra Bob around. So that could be interesting with like Hercules, Craven, whatever. But the problem with this card is because the majority of you players have very limited resources. Like I said, if you're a whale, fantastic, you'll get all the cards anyway, so who cares? But if you're not and you're really looking at how to spend your resources in what's going to feel like the most impactful way, Hydra Bob feels like a bit of a meme card for Deadpool's Diner specifically, and not an actual card that you are going to play consistently. At least I would say. So when you've got cards like Copycat and Cassandra Nova that you may have to acquire if you can't get through Deadpool's Diner, then Hydra Bob just feels like, ugh. Like, are you really going to spend like 6,000 tokens or potentially 4 keys? Now, don't get me wrong. If you're going to high roll and 1 key it, fantastic. I wish you could do that to all the cards. But even if you spend 2 or 3 keys, it feels like a bit of a drawback. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe there's something we're all missing with Hydra Bob, but I do think he's going to go in not worth. And I think on one hand, you could view this as an okay season to try and gather some resources here. Because if you look now, there's 2 cards that I think everyone should get. One of those cards you can get in Deadpool's Diner for free. If you can just get there, right? If you can get to the amount of bubs you need to unlock it. The other card, sure, you'll have to key your tokens, fine. And then the next card, Gwenpool, you get from the season pass, and for you as a player, you either buy the season pass or you don't, right? That's just a very simple choice to make for you, and that's whether you want to spend money. And then the other 2, I think, are very skippable. So I do think that this, if anything, is probably a season to maybe gather some resources and then be able to have maybe a little bit more freedom in future seasons as well, because we've got some cool season themes coming up, and hopefully the cards are pretty interesting and powerful as well. So yeah, that's it. That's my list. We've gone through the cards. This is what I'm planning on doing. I really want to get Copycat, and the way we do that is tokens or keys. Cassandra Nova, let's be honest, hopefully I get it in Deadpool's Diner, but knowing my luck, I'll fail and cry. Gwenpool I'm going to get because of the season pass, and the other 2, Unless I've completely missed something, and let me know if I have, the other two feel like happy skips, right? We can just not get them, save the resources, and prepare for the next few seasons. So yeah, that's it.